My sister mocked me. Where's your husband and kids? Oh, right, you don't. My parents laughed. It was a bright, sunny afternoon when the family gathered at their old, cozy house for Sunday lunch. Everyone was talking and laughing, but Mira, the main character, sat quietly in the corner, sipping her tea. She had always been a little shy and soft-spoken, but she had a kind heart and a sharp mind. Her sister Tanya, on the other hand, was loud, proud, and loved to show off in front of everyone. As the meal went on, Tanya started teasing Mira again, her favorite game. So, Mira, Tanya said, stretching the word, where's your husband and kids? Oh, right, you don't have any yet. She laughed loudly, looking around at the family for attention. Mira felt a sharp pain in her chest, but she forced a smile and kept quiet. Her parents, instead of stopping Tanya, laughed along, making Mira feel even smaller. Tanya didn't stop there. She leaned closer to Mira and whispered, loud enough for some people to hear, maybe you will stay single forever, just like a lonely little cat. A few cousins giggled, and Mira's face turned red. She looked down at her plate, pretending to eat, but inside a storm of anger and shame was growing. Mira remembered all the times Tanya had teased her like this, every birthday, every family event. It was always the same, Tanya showing off her perfect life, her husband, her kids, her big job, and Mira, the quiet one, was always the target of jokes. This time, however, something inside Mira changed, a small spark of determination. She realized she could not change the past, but maybe, just maybe, she could change the future. After lunch, everyone went outside to enjoy the sunny day. Mira stayed behind, pretending to check her phone, watching her sister talk to her friends. Tanya was laughing, telling everyone stories about her life, making Mira feel invisible. Mira noticed how careless Tanya was, how proud and arrogant she looked. Her heart beat faster, not with fear, but with a strange feeling, a mix of anger and curiosity. Mira thought about all the things she could do, but she knew she had to be smart. She could not just yell back or make a scene. That would make her look weak. No, she needed a plan, something quiet but strong, something Tanya would never see coming. Mira imagined a future where everyone would respect her, where no one would laugh at her again. She smiled a little, a secret smile, knowing this was the first step, the first seed of her plan. As the sun started to set, the family gathered in the living room for tea. Tanya continued her teasing, now talking about Mira's job, her simple apartment, her quiet life. Still living alone, Mira? Must be so boring, Tanya said, laughing loudly. Mira kept her calm, nodding politely, but her mind was busy thinking. She watched Tanya closely, noticing small habits, small weaknesses, small things she could use later. Her parents laughed at Tanya's jokes, and Mira realized something important. They were blind to the pain, blind to the humiliation, just enjoying Tanya's show. Mira's eyes narrowed slightly, not in hatred, but in understanding. She knew she could not rely on anyone else to fight her battles. She had to do it herself, and she would, slowly, cleverly, and surely. That night, Mira sat alone in her room, the house quiet except for the ticking clock. She thought about her life, her mistakes, her quiet moments, and her dreams. She remembered how everyone used to tell her she was too shy, too small, too weak. But now, she felt a fire inside her, something new, something powerful. She promised herself she would change, not for revenge alone, but for respect and pride. Mira picked up a notebook and started writing. She wrote down ideas, small plans, things she could do to improve her life. She wanted to be smarter, stronger, more confident. She wanted a life where no one, not even Tanya, could look down on her. Every word she wrote, every idea, made her feel a little taller, a little stronger. Days passed, and Mira started small, simple steps. She started learning new skills, reading more, talking to new people. Every step was quiet, invisible to Tanya. But it built her confidence. She smiled more, held her head higher, and slowly, the spark inside her grew. She didn't need anyone to notice. She just needed to be ready for the day her plan would work. And deep inside, Mira knew that day would come. Tanya's arrogance, her laughter, her mocking would all meet a quiet, clever, unstoppable force. Mira's calm eyes reflected determination. a promise of what was coming. The first chapter of her silent revenge had begun, and no one could guess how it would end. Not Tanya, not her parents, not even the cousins who laughed so freely. Mira was ready, and the world would soon notice her. After the humiliating lunch, Mira felt a quiet fire burning inside her. She realized that words alone could not change anything. She needed action. Mira started observing her sister, Tanya, more closely than ever. She noticed how Tanya loved attention, how easily she bragged, how careless she could be. Every little habit, every small mistake, was a piece of a puzzle Mira began to put together. Mira's first step was to improve herself. She enrolled in a night course at a small college, learning skills that would make her independent. She read books about confidence, communication, and clever strategies. She practiced speaking clearly, holding her posture, walking into rooms as if she owned them. Even small things like dressing neatly and walking with purpose became part of her plan. Every night she looked in the mirror and smiled, imagining the day she would quietly take control. While Mira worked on herself, she also started planting subtle hints around Tanya. She didn't confront her sister directly. She let Tanya underestimate her. Mira smiled politely at Tanya's jokes, but inside she was noting everything. Where Tanya kept important papers, how she interacted with friends, and even the little lies she told. It was like watching a careless queen, and Mira was the patient observer waiting for the right moment. One day, Mira heard Tanya bragging to a group of friends about an upcoming family event. She thinks she can be smart and strong, but she will always be small and boring, Tanya laughed. Mira listened quietly, her lips pressed together, her mind working. She realized that Tanya's arrogance was her biggest weakness, and if used carefully, it could be her downfall. Mira's next move was networking, connecting with people who could help her. She met kind mentors at her college, people who recognized her intelligence and determination. She even started helping local businesses with simple tasks, gaining trust and respect quietly. All of this happened without Tanya noticing, because Mira knew the value of patience. Every small victory was like fuel, feeding the fire that burned inside her. Weeks passed, and Mira grew stronger, more confident. She learned to control her anger, turning it into focus and determination. One evening, Mira overheard Tanya talking about her latest plan to humiliate Mira at the next family gathering. Tanya wanted to show everyone that Mira's life was still boring and useless. As she said, instead of feeling fear, Mira felt excitement. She had been preparing for this moment quietly, and now it was close. Mira began laying traps, small, clever actions that would seem like accidents. She sent subtle tips to family members about Tanya's exaggerated stories. She prepared ways to show Tanya's lies and arrogance naturally, without confrontation. Every move was precise, calculated, and invisible. Mira knew she could not rush because the best revenge was not loud, it was quiet and inevitable. Mira also started improving her social circle. She became friends with people Tanya admired but ignored. She learned their interests and began helping them, quietly gaining influence. Mira's confidence grew so much that she started speaking in small meetings at work and college. People began noticing her intelligence, her calm determination, her reliability. Meanwhile, Tanya continued to mock her in front of others, completely unaware of the storm brewing behind Mira's calm smile. One night, Mira wrote in her notebook again, detailing her next steps. She carefully wrote down Tanya's weaknesses, the timing of the next family event, and possible opportunities. She imagined how each step would unfold, like a chess game. Mira could see Tanya stepping into her trap without realizing it. Her heart beat faster, but it was not with anger. It was with excitement, satisfaction, and focus. Mira's parents still ignored the tension, thinking everything was harmless fun. But Mira had learned something important. The world often laughed at quiet people, but when quiet people acted with patience and intelligence, their power was unstoppable. She smiled as she imagined the day Tanya would be exposed, the day everyone would see the truth. Mira's life was changing, slowly, invisibly, but surely. And the more Tanya mocked, the closer Mira's plan was to success. By the end of this month, Mira had become almost unrecognizable, not in looks alone, but in presence, confidence, and influence. Even her closest friends noticed the change, the calm fire in her eyes. Mira was ready for the next family gathering, ready to let the first part of her plan unfold. And though no one knew it yet, not even Tanya, The quiet girl they all laughed at was about to turn the game completely. Mira's revenge would be clever, patient, and satisfying. And Tanya's arrogance would be her own downfall, all because Mira had learned the power of silence, patience, and strategy. As Mira went to bed that night, she looked out the window at the moonlight. She whispered to herself, "Soon you will see, Tanya." And with that quiet promise, Mira drifted off to sleep, full of hope, plan, and determination. The storm of her revenge was coming, and it would be unstoppable. Tanya had no idea that the quiet girl she mocked had been building a hidden empire of strength, skill, and patience. And when the time came, every laugh, every mocking word, every cruel joke would return to her. But until then, Mira waited, quietly, patiently, and with a clever mind that never rested. The next family gathering arrived, and Mira could feel her heart pounding with quiet excitement. She had planned every detail carefully, every smile, every gesture, every word. Tanya was already there, showing off her perfect life to everyone, laughing loudly and bragging about her latest achievements. She had no idea that Mira had been quietly observing, learning, and planning for months. As the event began, Mira walked in with a calm, confident posture. Her parents noticed the change immediately, a little shocked at how much she had grown. Tanya, of course, noticed too, but she laughed it off, thinking Mira's change was meaningless. "Look at her," Tanya whispered to a friend, "trying to act important. It's so funny." Mira smiled politely, but inside, she was analyzing Tanya's every move. She knew exactly where Tanya would slip first, and it was only a matter of time. The first sign of trouble for Tanya came when a family friend started talking about a small incident at work. Mira had quietly shared some details earlier, highlighting Tanya's exaggerations and lies without anyone realizing it was planned. When Tanya tried to brag about her achievements, the friend gently corrected her, and a few people raised their eyebrows. Tanya's face flushed red. She stumbled for words, and Mira could barely hide her quiet satisfaction. No one knew how clever Mira had been, setting the stage for this exact moment. As the gathering continued, Mira stayed calm, smiling softly, letting events unfold. Tanya tried to regain control, telling another story about herself. But Mira had already prepared subtle evidence that exposed small lies. Friends and cousins started noticing the inconsistencies, and Tanya's confidence began to crack. Her laughter sounded forced, her jokes fell flat, and the crowd slowly shifted their attention to Mira. It was not obvious yet, but a careful observer could see the tide was turning. Mira had also made small moves outside the family circle. She had quietly connected with people Tanya relied on for approval and recognition. During the gathering, they noticed Mira's calm intelligence, her wit, and her confidence. Some of Tanya's so-called friends started whispering among themselves, confused about who was really in charge. Tanya tried to dominate the conversation, but every attempt failed, and every failure made her more frustrated. At one point, Tanya tried to humiliate Mira directly. She leaned close and said loudly, "Still single, Mira? Must be boring to have no one." But before anyone could laugh, Mira responded calmly, "I enjoy my life, Tanya, and I work hard on what matters." Her voice was steady, polite, and confident, and the room went quiet for a moment. Even Tanya's closest friends were surprised at Mira's courage, and some of them started admiring her calm presence. Mira didn't need to shout or attack. Her quiet strength was enough to shake Tanya. The tension increased as the evening went on. Mira had prepared one final subtle move, a clever twist that would leave Tanya speechless. She had shared a small detail about Tanya's lies with another family member earlier, and now it surfaced naturally. Tanya tried to deny it, but the evidence was clear, and everyone could see the truth. Her face turned red with embarrassment. Her laughter disappeared, and she stammered. Mira watched quietly, a calm smile playing on her lips, as Tanya's arrogance began to crumble. Parents who had once laughed at Mira now looked at her with surprise and admiration. Even cousins who had giggled at her during past events now whispered about how confident and capable she had become. Tanya tried to regain control, but every word she said seemed weaker than before. She had underestimated Mira completely, and now the quiet girl she mocked had become the center of attention. The more Tanya tried, the more obvious it became that Mira had outsmarted her. Every plan, every secret step, every patient move had led to this moment, and it was unstoppable. By the end of the evening, Tanya's arrogance had been exposed fully. She tried to smile, but it was forced, and her friends looked at her differently. Mira, on the other hand, walked away calmly, smiling softly, not needing to gloat. Her plan had worked perfectly, showing everyone the truth without a single loud confrontation. Tanya realized that her mocking, her pride, and her carelessness had all contributed to her downfall. Mira's patient, clever approach had made sure the consequences were inevitable. As Mira left the gathering, she felt a quiet satisfaction. She had not only defended herself, but also grown stronger, smarter, and more confident. Tanya's arrogance had been challenged in the most elegant and clever way. Mira knew this was just the beginning, but it was a major victory. She had proven to herself that intelligence, patience, and subtlety could overcome mockery, and though she walked away quietly, everyone in the room had seen the power shift. Mira's calm eyes reflected a promise, a secret that Tanya would never forget. The quiet girl they all laughed at had become unstoppable. The next family event was the biggest one of the year, a celebration that everyone looked forward to. Mira arrived early, calm and composed, her presence commanding attention without her even trying. She had spent months preparing for this moment, carefully planning every detail. Tanya, of course, arrived late, as always, full of confidence and self-importance. She had no idea that every step she took was already part of Mira's plan. Every laugh, every word, every gesture she made was being quietly observed, analyzed, and turned against her. The gathering started with casual conversations, but Mira had arranged small surprises to reveal Tanya's arrogance. She had quietly spoken to some family members beforehand, giving them subtle hints about Tanya's exaggerated stories. As Tanya began to brag about her so-called achievements, a few people gently corrected her. It was subtle, almost accidental, but everyone noticed, and Tanya's face began to flush with embarrassment. She tried to cover it with laughter, but it sounded forced, hollow, and weak. Mira stood nearby, smiling softly, her calm confidence now shining brighter than ever. Then came the moment Mira had been waiting for, the perfect opportunity to reveal the truth fully. She had secretly gathered proof of Tanya's lies, exaggerations, and careless mistakes. Now, in front of everyone, she presented it naturally, without anger or harsh words. She spoke calmly, clearly, letting facts speak louder than any confrontation ever could. The room went quiet, eyes shifting between Mira and Tanya. Tanya opened her mouth to argue, but Mira had anticipated every response. Her calm demeanor, her clever planning, and her quiet strength left Tanya speechless. One by one, family members began to see Tanya for who she truly was. The friends who had always admired her arrogance now whispered in surprise. Even parents who had once laughed at Mira looked at her with pride and admiration. They realized they had been blind, laughing at cruelty instead of supporting their daughter. Tanya's confidence crumbled completely, and for the first time she felt the sting of shame. Mira didn't gloat. She didn't shout or mock. She simply stood tall, letting the truth do the work. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of revenge, shocking betrayals, and thrilling twists that you won't find anywhere else.